The full moon shone high in the sky, casting a silver glow over the village gathered for the sacred ceremony. The elders stood in a circle, chanting in rhythmic unison, their hands raised toward the heavens. The air was thick with the scent of burning herbs, the villagers' murmurs blending with the steady beat of the sacred drum. For years it had lain silent, gathering dust in the center of the village square, forgotten by many, but revered by all. Suddenly, the drum began to play on its own, the sound piercing through the evening calm. A deep, thunderous beat that seemed to come from the very heart of the earth itself. It echoed through the trees, shaking the ground beneath their feet, sending ripples of panic through the crowd. The chief, his eyes wide with shock, staggered back from the drum, his voice faltering, mid-proclamation. His knees buckled and he fell to the ground, his body jerking violently, as if gripped by some unseen force. A wave of fear swept over the villagers, their shouts and cries rising in a chorus of confusion and terror. "The spirits are angry!" someone shouted, eyes wide with horror. "The curse has returned!" Amina, a young orphan with sharp eyes and a quick mind, stood at the edge of the crowd, her gaze fixed on the drum. It beat steadily, yet there was something unnatural about it, something that gnawed at her. She had heard the stories, of course, the tales of the drum's ancient power, the dark history that bound it to the village. But it had always been just that, stories. And yet, now, as the drum played on, she could feel its presence, powerful, ominous, as though it were alive. Amina's curiosity grew. What was it about this drum? What did it want? "Mama Adiola," she murmured to herself, recalling the stern warnings of her mentor. From behind, Mama Adiola appeared, her eyes narrowed with concern. She placed a hand on Amina's shoulder, pulling her close. "You must leave," she said, her voice trembling. "Stay away from the drum. It is cursed, Amina. You must never touch it, never get involved." But Amina couldn't shake the feeling. She had to know more. "But why?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why does it play now, after all these years?" Mama Adiola's face tightened, her eyes flickering with something, fear, maybe, or grief. "Some things are better left undisturbed. The drum calls, only in times of great danger." Amina's gaze returned to the drum. The marks on its surface, the intricate carvings, seemed to pulse in the moonlight, as if alive. She took a step closer, her fingers itching to trace the symbols, but Mama Adiola's grip tightened. "Do not touch it," Mama Adiola warned, her voice firm, but Amina, driven by an insatiable curiosity, ignored the warning. She stepped forward, her fingers brushing against the cold wood of the drum. Her breath caught as the markings seemed to shift beneath her touch, revealing something hidden, a symbol she had never seen before. It was a map, etched into the surface, a path that led deep into the heart of the forest. Before she could examine it further, a voice broke through the air, sharp with accusation. "It's him! It's Idawu!" Amina turned, her eyes narrowing. The villagers were pointing at the figure emerging from the shadows, Idawu, the outsider, the mysterious man who had been whispered about for years. He was tall, with dark eyes that held secrets, his face marked by years of exile. His name was often spoken in hushed tones, his dealings with forbidden artifacts the stuff of legend and fear. Now, as the drum continued its ominous beat, he was the first to be blamed. "Idawu," a voice cried. "He has cursed the chief. He's the one who brought the drum back." Amina's heart skipped a beat. She had heard the rumors, but she had never believed them. But now, with the drum's eerie rhythm filling the air and the chief lying unconscious, the village's suspicions had reached a boiling point. The crowd began to stir, murmurs of distrust spreading like wildfire. "He must leave," someone shouted. "We must banish him!" But Idawu stood still, his gaze locked with Amina's. She could see the desperation in his eyes. He approached her, his voice low but urgent. "I didn't do it. I didn't bring the curse. I need your help, Amina. The village is wrong about me." Amina hesitated, Her loyalty to Mama Adiola warred with the pull of truth that Idowu seemed to offer. She had been warned about him, told to avoid his kind, yet there was something about his plea that made her doubt the accusations calling. The curse is real. He is the one who cursed the chief. The tension in the air was thick, suffocating. Amina's heart raced. She had a choice: follow the crowd, condemn Idowu, or listen to her own instincts and help him find the truth behind the drum. The night grew darker, the moon casting long shadows over the village. Idowu's eyes burned with urgency. Please, Amina, I can explain everything. I know about the drum's power. I was exiled for trying to steal it years ago, but I never wanted this to happen. I need you to help me stop it before it destroys everything. The weight of his words hung in the air, and Amina felt a shiver run down her spine. What did he mean? What was the drum truly capable of? As the villagers continued to shout, Amina made her decision. She would help Idowu. She couldn't ignore the pull of the drum, nor could she turn away from the mystery it presented. But with this choice, she knew that the answers would not be simple. The truth, she suspected, would bring with it a danger far greater than any curse. I'll help you, she said, her voice steady, her resolve hardening. Idowu nodded, a glimmer of relief in his eyes. But as the moonlight shimmered on the drum, both of them understood the gravity of the path they had chosen. They had just opened a door that could never be closed, and whatever lay beyond it, they would face together. But first, they would need to uncover the drum's dark secrets, and that meant diving deeper into a past that no one in the village was ready to confront. Amina stood at the edge of the village square, her gaze fixed on the drum. It sat there, silent for years, its surface dark with age and neglect. The voices around her filled the air, murmurs of the past, warnings from the elders. Stay away from it, child. That drum has a dark history, Mama Adiola had said. But Amina's curiosity had begun to grow, no matter how hard she tried to resist it. The drum called to her, its power, its mystery, gnawing at her every thought. Amina glanced toward Mama Adiola. The elder's face was hard, her eyes shadowed with secrets. Why do you fear it so? Amina asked, unable to hold back the question anymore. What is the truth behind the drum? You will understand when the time comes, Mama Adiola replied, her tone too final, too evasive. For now, just leave it be. Some things are better left untouched. But Amina's mind was not at peace. That night, as she lay in the quiet of her small hut, her dreams came alive with voices from the past. The sounds of a familiar lullaby echoed in her ears. She could see them, her parents, standing in a dense, shadowed forest. Their faces were soft with love, but edged with sorrow. Amina, do not fear the drum. It is not your enemy, her mother's voice whispered. But you must understand its power, her father added, his face hardening. The drum is both a gift and a curse. It holds the key to your future. Amina awoke with a start, her heart racing. What had they meant? The dream was clear, but the truth remained elusive. Her connection to the drum wasn't just that of curiosity, it was something deeper, tied to her blood, to her parents. The next morning, she walked to the village square, her feet heavy with uncertainty. There, standing apart from the crowd, was Idowu. His eyes locked onto hers as though he had been waiting for her. The villagers whispered about him, his past cloaked in mystery, his knowledge of ancient artifacts a thing of both awe and fear. Some claimed he had once tried to steal the drum. Others said he was marked by the very spirits the drum called forth. Yet, despite the rumors, Amina felt no fear in him, only a quiet understanding. You're investigating the drum, aren't you? Idowu asked, his voice low and direct. Amina nodded. I have to. There's something I don't understand, something my parents didn't tell me. Idowu's face shifted, an unreadable emotion crossing his features. There's much you don't know, Amina. The drum holds secrets, dangerous ones. But if you seek the truth, you must be prepared for what you'll uncover. Amina met his gaze, her resolve hardening. I'm ready. Idowu paused, then sighed. The drum is more than just a symbol of power. It's a bridge between the living and the spirits. and it holds the memories of those who've gone before us. It knows the past, the mistakes, and the betrayals. Amina shuddered, but her curiosity drove her forward. What happened to my parents? Idowu hesitated, but his eyes spoke volumes. Your parents, they were part of a great betrayal. They tried to silence the drum, to take its power for themselves. But the spirits don't forget. They exact their price. Amina felt her stomach drop. The truth was far darker than she had imagined, but she couldn't stop now. Then we need to stop it, she said, her voice firm. We need to understand the drum before it destroys everything. But the weight of those words hung heavy in the air. The village was divided. Some elders claimed the drum was a blessing, others a curse. The night of the ritual dance arrived, and the village gathered as they had done for generations, chanting, moving as one. The drum sat in the center, quiet, still. But Amina felt its pulse, as though it was waiting, watching. As the rhythm of the dancers grew louder, the drum seemed to hum in response. The village had gathered for the ritual, but their eyes flicked nervously to the drum as it loomed over them. Is it truly the key to the spirits? Amina whispered to herself. She stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. Then came the moment of reckoning. The mark on the drum shifted. A map. Hidden within its carvings was a route, one that led deep into the forest. But it wasn't just a map. It was a warning, too. You should not have touched it. Mama Adiola's voice rang through her mind, but Amina ignored it. The answers she sought lay hidden within the drum's markings. There was something here, a treasure, perhaps, or a curse. She moved back to Mama Adiola, her mind racing. What does it mean? She asked urgently. Mama Adiola's eyes were filled with regret. The drum reveals only to those it deems worthy. It is a test, Amina. It will awaken when there is strife in the village, when the hearts of the people are divided. You must be ready. Amina's breath caught. The prophecy was real. The drum awakens to test unity, she whispered, understanding dawning in her mind. The village was on the brink of destruction, and she had been chosen to decide whether it would survive or fall into ruin. The villagers began to argue. Some wanted to destroy the drum, fearing its power, while others wanted to preserve it, believing it held the key to their future. Amina found herself at the heart of this conflict, torn between the warnings of Mama Adiola and the pull of the drum's mysterious call. But it was not just the drum's power that divided them. The villagers were divided in their beliefs, each one seeing the drum differently, some as a blessing, others as a curse. Fear and suspicion rippled through the crowd, and Amina knew that the village could not survive unless they were united. With a steady breath, she faced Mama Adiola once more, her mind made up. I will seek the truth, Amina said, no matter the cost. Mama Adiola's expression softened, but there was a deep sadness in her eyes. Then be careful, child. The truth is not always kind. Amina nodded, understanding the weight of her decision. The path ahead was uncertain, but the drum's mysteries were hers to uncover. The future of the village rested in her hands, and she would not turn away. The village was on the edge, a storm brewing in the hearts of its people. As the chief's body trembled under the unseen weight of the curse, the air thickened with fear. His breath came in ragged gasps, his body jerking uncontrollably as if possessed by an ancient force. His eyes were wide with terror, searching the faces of the gathered villagers. Do you see? Someone whispered, the voice trembling. This is the work of witchcraft. Idowu. It must be him, another voice cried, filled with panic. As the chief collapsed, the village erupted in chaos. People turned on each other, fingers pointing, accusations flying. Eyes once full of trust now shimmered with suspicion, and fear gripped the hearts of all. The curse had returned, and with it, the unraveling of the village's unity. Amina stood in the back of the crowd, her eyes fixed on the figure of Idowu. His face was calm, though the whispers around him grew louder. He remained motionless, as if unaffected by the frenzy unfolding around him. but Amina could feel the tension in the air. Something was terribly wrong, but she didn't know who to trust. Amina's curiosity gnawed at her. She had to understand. The truth of the drum, it held answers. Answers to the curse, to the chief's sudden decline, and to the fear sweeping through the village. Together with Idawu, she sneaked into the sacred chambers of the elders that night. The shadows of the past whispered to them as they rifled through ancient scrolls hidden in the depths of the elders' secret chamber. The scrolls were brittle, their words faded by time, but they spoke of betrayal, of a village torn apart by the curse tied to the sacred drum. It was not always like this, Idawu muttered as he read aloud, his voice low. There was a time when the drum brought the village together. But then came the betrayal. Amina's fingers trembled as she read the words. The drum had been the center of a great betrayal, one that had cost the village its unity. The very artifact that had once symbolized strength now carried a curse that would tear them apart if left unchecked. As she digested the weight of what they had uncovered, doubt crept into Amina's heart. She thought of Mama Adiola, the elder, who had always warned her to stay away from the drum. But why? Why had she kept the truth hidden? Late into the night, Amina's world tilted. She found something among the scrolls, a symbol. It was a mark she recognized, her mother's symbol, one she had seen in a dream. The connection between Mama Adiola and the curse was deeper than Amina had ever imagined. She had no time to dwell on it. The village was in danger. The whispers of betrayal were becoming louder, and there was a darker force at play. Idawu had already felt the weight of the villagers' accusations. It was only a matter of time before they turned on him completely. Idawu's voice broke through her thoughts, heavy with something unsaid. Amina, he said, his eyes shadowed with guilt. There's something I haven't told you. The death of your parents. It was my fault. I betrayed them, and in doing so, I sealed our fates. Amina's heart stopped. She stared at him, unable to process his words. The betrayal that had torn her family apart, he had been a part of it. But why now? Why reveal this now, when the village was falling apart? I tried to fix it, Idawu continued, his voice cracking. I thought I could stop the curse, but I failed. I couldn't save your parents. Amina's breath caught in her throat. Her mind spun. The truth she had longed for was nothing like she had imagined. And now, the fragile alliance she had formed with Idawu was shattered, replaced with the bitter taste of betrayal. Her thoughts were interrupted by a voice booming from the crowd outside. Idawu must leave. He's the cause of all this misery. Warrior Ekin stood at the forefront, his arm raised high as he rallied the villagers. The curse is his doing. He must be punished. The village was splintering. Warrior Ekin seized the opportunity to further his own agenda, using the fear and chaos to claim control. He had long coveted power, and now, with the village divided, he saw his chance to manipulate the villagers into acting against Idawu and securing his own dominance. Amina knew they had to act fast. But before they could make their escape, their canoe was sabotaged. The moment they pushed off from the shore, the boat rocked violently. The canoe's bottom cracked, and they found themselves drifting dangerously close to a crocodile-infested river. Panic surged through Amina's chest. She clung to the edge of the boat as it tipped precariously toward the rapids. Idawu's calm demeanor did little to soothe her. He was too quiet, too calm, as if this was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. His hands moved quickly, trying to steer them to safety, but it was clear they were in serious danger. With one final heave, they managed to paddle to the shore, their hearts pounding in their chests. But the danger was far from over. The jungle ahead was thick, and in the shadows, a deadlier threat awaited. They stumbled upon a hidden pit, filled with venomous snakes guarding another scroll that could hold the key to the curse. Amina hesitated, fear gnawing at her, but she pushed forward, determined to uncover the truth. Stay close, Idawu muttered, as they carefully navigated the pit. One wrong move could mean death. The air was thick with the hiss of snakes, but Amina's resolve hardened. She had to break the curse, no matter the cost. The night was filled with the haunting sounds of the ancestral spirits, who appeared in fleeting visions. Their eyes were hollow, their voices cold as they warned Amina and Idowu to abandon their search. But Amina's heart remained steadfast. "I can't turn back," she whispered, more to herself than to Idowu. "We have to finish this." But trust between them was fading. The truth about Idowu's betrayal haunted Amina's thoughts, and the village's rising distrust only made her feel more isolated. Their fragile alliance was crumbling, and with it, the last hope of breaking the curse. As the curse tightened its grip on the village, Amina and Idowu found themselves at a crossroads. Should they reveal the truth and risk the villagers' wrath, or continue their search for a way to break the cycle of terror? The weight of the decision loomed over them. The village's future was uncertain, and their next steps could either save them or destroy them all. The village was cloaked in darkness, the air thick with tension. Amina and Idowu stood before the sacred drum, its presence commanding the silence. The elders had gathered, their faces a mixture of fear and resolve. It was under this heavy night that the truth would finally be revealed. Mama Adiola stepped forward, her eyes steady but filled with sorrow. "The drum was never meant to be worshipped. It was a test," she began, her voice cutting through the air, like the chill of the wind. "A test from the ancestors. It is not just a drum, it is a measure of the unity of this village. When the village is divided, the drum awakens to judge." Amina's heart raced. A test? The drum, the source of so much fear, was not an object of power, but a harbinger of judgment. The weight of the revelation crushed her, and she glanced at Idowu, seeking answers. Idowu's face remained neutral, but his eyes flickered with a deep, unspoken truth. "Amina, there's more you need to know," he said, his voice low, almost pained. "The truth is, I was once exiled for attempting to steal the drum." Amina's eyes widened. You tried to steal it?" "I didn't want the power," Idowu continued, his voice strained. "I wanted to protect the village, but I was wrong. Too eager, too blinded by fear of the drum's power. I thought I could take it before it could destroy us. But I failed. Now I'm here to stop the cycle. I've been trying to prevent others from making the same mistake I did." Amina stood frozen, her thoughts swirling. The betrayal, the deception. It all began to make sense, but it did nothing to ease the gnawing confusion inside her. Was Idowu truly a villain, or was there more to his story? Before she could say anything, a shout broke the air. "We must act now!" Warrior Akina's voice thundered, slicing through the gathering. His hand rose, rallying the villagers. "The curse has claimed the chief. The drum must burn. The only way to end this is to destroy it once and for all." Idowu's eyes narrowed. "He's using fear to turn them against us." Amina's heart pounded. The village had already fractured. Now, Akeng was leading a violent charge against the very thing that had caused so much fear. With a loud roar, Akeng and his followers began to move toward the drum, their hands grabbing torches and flares. The flames were already beginning to lick the air. "No!" Amina shouted, grabbing Idowu's arm. "We can't let them destroy it. We must stop him." Together, they rushed toward the drum. The village's chaos surged around them as Akini's forces closed in. The drum stood there, its wooden frame seemingly untouched by the turmoil surrounding. Amina and Idowu fought their way through the crowd, their minds locked on one thing: the drum. Then, as the first torch reached the surface of the drum, something unimaginable happened. The markings on the drum began to glow, first faintly, then with an intensity that illuminated the night. The light surged in waves, brighter and brighter, until the air itself seemed to hum with power. Amina gasped. The drum was more than a test. It was a gateway. The light revealed images, ancient faces staring back at them, the spirits of the ancestors calling out. The ground beneath their feet shook, as if the village itself had awakened. "This isn't just a curse," Amina whispered in awe. "It's a doorway." Idowu looked at her, his face a mix of fear and understanding. "The drum holds more than judgment. It holds secrets. Secrets that could change everything." Amina stepped forward, her hand hovering over the drum, her heart torn. The spirits spoke to her. She could feel their presence, their longing, their rage. She could almost hear the voice of her mother in the wind. The drum had always been a link, a bridge to the spirits, but now it felt like it could either heal or destroy everything. Amina's breath hitched. The curse was not just a myth, it was real. And with it, the painful truth of her parents' deaths waited, hidden beneath the weight of the drum's power. Her gaze flickered to the villagers, still divided. Some stared at the glowing markings in fear, others in awe. And behind them, Ekena's, face twisted in fury. "We can't destroy it," Amina said, her voice steady. "We need to uncover the truth. We need to unlock the answers before it's too late." Idowu nodded, but his expression was grim. "You know what this means, Amina. If we unlock it, we risk everything. If the spirits are angered, there's no going back." Amina clenched her fists. "But if we don't, we live in ignorance. We let the cycle continue. I need to know the truth." With a final glance at Idowu, she reached out and touched the drum. The light flared around her, and a deep voice echoed through the air. "Do you wish to see what has been hidden?" Amina nodded. Suddenly, a new vision appeared, her parents' faces, not the smiling, loving figures she remembered, but angry, distorted, consumed by greed. They were fighting with others, fighting over the drum, its power, its potential. Betrayal had marked their downfall, and it was because of their greed that the village had suffered. The truth shattered her. Her parents had played a part in the curse. They had sought the drum's power for themselves, and in doing so, they had doomed. "The village. Your parents' mistake cost us all," the spirits whispered. The realization hit Amina like a weight, but it also gave her clarity. She had to choose. If she destroyed the drum now, the spirits would be silenced, and the village would live in fear, never knowing the full truth. But if she allowed the drum to remain, if she uncovered all of its power, the village might face a reckoning far worse than the one they already endured. In that moment, Amina knew her decision would change the future forever. As she turned to face the village, Eken lunged forward, fury in his eyes. "You fool! You cannot allow the drum to exist! It will be the end of us all!" With one final act of desperation, Ekene reached for a torch, throwing it at the drum. But Amina and Idowu acted in unison, pushing forward, standing between the fire and the drum. The clash was intense, a final battle for the drum's fate, Ekene's. Last stand had begun. The drum sat in the center, its power now both a blessing and a burden. Amina stood at the heart of it all, the weight of her decision settling heavily on her shoulders. She had chosen to unlock the drum's power, to reveal the painful truths hidden within its ancient markings. Now, the village was left to face the consequences. Some of the villagers stood in awe, their eyes filled with fear and reverence. Others whispered anxiously, unsure whether the revelation had brought them closer to salvation or further into darkness. The drum had been silenced for so long, and now that its true nature had been unleashed, the world had changed. The weight of the past hung like a heavy cloud, casting a shadow over the future. "You have done it now," one of the elders muttered, his voice low and filled with doubt. "The village will never be the same." Amina stood tall, her gaze steady, but deep inside, her heart was torn. She had unlocked the drum's secrets, but the village was fractured, torn between a future of unity and the fear that the curse was only just beginning. Idowu, standing beside her, let out a deep breath. His face was unreadable. The villagers no longer looked at him with suspicion. They saw him now as a hero, someone who had uncovered the truth with Amina. But there was no joy in his eyes. "I've done what I came to do," Idowu said, his voice steady but heavy with unspoken words. "The village can rebuild, but I can't stay." Amina turned to him, her heart aching. "You can't just leave now. We still need you." He shook his head. "You've made your choice, Amina. Now you must lead. My place is not here. Anymore." With a final glance, he turned away, disappearing into the night. Amina stood in silence, watching his figure fade into the distance. Her heart ached for the man who had risked everything to help her, but his journey was his own. He was seeking redemption, and she knew he would find it, far from the village they had once called home. The next morning, the village was silent. The air was thick with the weight of the decision Amina had made. The people no longer looked to the elders for answers. They looked to her. She had unlocked the drum's power, and now she was the one who had to guide them. She moved through the village, her mind racing. She had never asked for this role. She wasn't ready to be a leader, but the villagers were looking to her now, waiting for guidance. They had seen the truth of the past, and some feared the future it held. Amina's heart grew heavy as she realized that she had become the reluctant hero of this village, tasked with making decisions she didn't know how to carry. Amina found herself standing at the center of the village, facing the people she had once called family. The drum lay behind her, its glow now faded, but its power still lingered in the air. "We must decide what comes next," Amina called, her voice ringing through the gathered crowd. "Some of us will fear the truth, some will long for the past. But we must unite, or we will fall apart." There were murmurs in the crowd. Some were nodding in agreement, others shaking their heads, unsure of what to do with the power that had been revealed. The rift between them was growing wider, but Amina knew that she had to bridge it. She stepped forward, her voice strong. "The drum has shown us what has been hidden. The power of the ancestors is not something we can take lightly. We must honor both the past and the future. Only then can we heal." But the village was not so easily healed. The wounds ran deep, and some could not forget the things that had been revealed. The betrayal of the past haunted the people, and trust was a long road to rebuild. Amina's nights were restless. The weight of her decision kept her awake, her mind churning with questions. Was she truly the right one to lead them? Had she made the right choice? Guilt gnawed at her, her parents' betrayal still fresh in her mind. She could still hear their voices in the wind, warning her. But how could she have known? She had only sought the truth, and yet now, with the truth revealed, she was left with nothing but the echoes of what had been. One morning, Mama Adiola appeared before her. The elder's face was soft, but there was a certain sadness in her eyes. She had watched Amina grow, seen the strength in her, but now there was a recognition of the burden she carried. "You have done what had to be done, Amina," Mama Adiola said, her voice quiet. "The village is no longer what it was, and neither are you. You are no longer a child. You are the keeper of the truth." Amina looked at her, a mix of sorrow and understanding in her heart. "But the village, it's torn. I don't know if I can guide them. I don't know if I can fix what's been broken." Mama Adiola placed a hand on Amina's shoulder. "Healing takes time, child. The spirit of the village has been wounded, and it will not heal in a day, but it will heal. You must be patient. The wisdom of the ancestors has been passed to you, and now it is time for you to teach them the way forward." Amina took a deep breath, her heart heavy, but also filled with a glimmer of hope. The village would heal, and she would guide them. But the journey was long, and the path was uncertain. The next day, Amina stood before the villagers once more. She spoke of unity, of trust, and of the future they would build together. Slowly, step by step, the village began to heal. Tensions eased. Rituals were resumed, but this time they were different. The drum still sat at the center, not as a symbol of power, but as a reminder of the lessons they had learned. Amina's heart swelled with quiet pride. She had made her choice. She had revealed the truth. And now, with each step, she was learning what it meant to lead, to guide, and to heal. In the stillness of the night, Amina stood alone, looking out over the village. The drum, though silent, seemed to hum with a quiet power. She had made a promise to the people, a promise to honor both the past and the future. And as the village began to rebuild, Amina knew the road ahead would be long, but it was a road they would walk together.